Hello and welcome to another video from the lair. Please remember that every video is somebody's first video, so if I repeat myself or say things that you may already know, bear with me because somebody's learning for the first time. In this video we're going to talk a little bit about the Galaxy War and how to complete it with a Rebel team in particular, and at the end how to use an Empire team, which is a little bit surprising or more interesting than you might think. To look at this, the reason we're using a Rebel team, this is an account with a Rebel start versus, or I should say, an old school Rebel start versus the Phoenix start. And what we do here is we're using Wedge as a leader because his leader ability is Rebel allies have plus 30% offense, which is great, extra damage. They recover 15% of their max health and 10% turn meter on a critical hit. And if you notice, I get a lot of critical hit chance up, and there are lots of crits within the team itself. Turn meter on a critical hit and recover 25% of their max health whenever they defeat an enemy. So when we kill enemies, we're getting health back. And that first fight there was kind of an easy one. If you're not sure how Galaxy War works, you start out on easier teams or less galactic power teams than your main team or your highest team that you ran in arena. And then it progressively gets more difficult. And there's every third node is going to be a hard node before it resets itself. I accidentally put my Stormtrooper Han in because I was thinking I was in Arena, not Galactic War. But I usually don't run him because I want to save his protections for the end. So I throw Farm Boy Luke in there, and he actually generally holds out for quite a while. My main characters are all Gear 9, except Biggs. He's a Gear 8, and he's almost 9. And then Farm Boy Luke, he is actually a Gear 6. All of them are 7 stars. Anyway, so we're running the Wedge lead for the health recovery, which is a sustain mechanic, because we need to use the same team throughout the entirety of the Galaxy War, or Galactic War, rather. I'm trying to use in all these battles, you gotta be cooldown considerate, because if you use a cooldown or your larger abilities that have 3-turn cooldown or whatever on it, kind of like Wedge's Red Squadron strike before you get it to level 8. You won't have that up for your harder battle, so using it in the middle battle isn't as wise. Also, I'm not running a tank in these earlier nodes because I kill things too fast. If you notice, they don't really give as much time to actually utilize the taunt and tank. And a quick note here, I killed Sidious first because he puts a healing debuff on people, and if they can't heal, I can't sustain. If I can't sustain, I can't keep them alive. If I can't keep them alive, I can't win. So that's another thing you want to look out for, is the teams you're fighting. So I try not to use going back to what I was saying before, I try not to use my larger cooldowns on the second node. On the first node it's okay, on the second node give me time to recharge those cooldowns, and by the third node I'm ready to go. Kind of like here. I'm also trying not to use a cooldown if it's going to do too much damage. If you look over at Biggs, he has his one ability, Comrade in Arms, that if Wedge is around, Wedge will attack and another Rebel will attack. That does a crap ton load of damage. That's really used for deleting a character. Kind of like right there, I chose not to use it and just use my basic on Biggs, and it did the job just fine. Another thing is the healers. You really don't need to focus them in Galactic War first, because they're not going to do a lot of damage to you, and generally in these earlier stages you're able to wipe out the damage dealers without the healers getting their heal off. Now let's look over here at node 6. See that Yoda at Gear 9? Node 6 and 9 are usually the troubled nodes for people. So that's where the power kind of comes up, and you got to be more strategic about what you're using. So here I'm going to want to delete somebody right off the bat because I have Biggs' ability up. I chose Yoda because he can be kind of annoying at times, and there wasn't really a bigger threat out there. Vader can do some damage if you let him stay around, but Vader really does that giant AoE that puts a dot on everybody, and a dot is a damage over time. An AoE is an area of effect attack, kind of like the one you just saw there from Wedge. If he were to get it off, it wouldn't have been a big deal because it's not going to do a lot of damage. the worry with Vader is the Culling Blade. So if there are dots on a target and debuffs, he'll use those to increase the damage of his Culling Blade, and then you'll get hurt really bad from that. So that's why I got rid of the Yoda first, because the other three, two of them were healers, and one of them was just kind of like a random Jedi that nobody really cares about. So that was why the kill order was that in particular. And you see that I'm going through these and I'm kind of sustaining. I'm not really losing a lot. I've lost a little bit of protections, which is not too bad. So this next node should be an easy node, but we're going to address the node more on the tactical side. I want to take out Tarkin first, because Tarkin will put critical chance down. The old school Rebel team that I have here, they're all about crits. That's all they do. If I get critical chance down, I can't heal, I can't do things, I can't generate turn meter, I can't live, I can't get my damage off. Another thing to notice is Boba Fett. If you let him live to the end and you get someone low in health, he can kill them and get his second life, or third life, or fourth life, or fifth life, depending on how it goes. Because he always gets two when he has that buff above his head. He gets the one he's on, and then when he comes back to life with that buff. But the buff's no longer there when he comes back to life, so once he kills somebody, he'll regain that buff. So you got to kind of handle Boba Fett in such a way that you prevent him from killing your whole team at the end. Because if everybody's low in health near the end, it is possible for him to wipe an entire team. That's why you want to handle him first or second, depending on who else is around. Now this is an Empire team right here. Emperor Palpatine is one you're going to want to take out, because he'll do damage to rebels passively. The other one here is Dooku. Dooku is a pain in the butt in lower levels, especially under a Nihilist lead, which gives him health steal, because Dooku retaliates every time you attack him. He does more damage on the retaliate, or rather a counter. So I avoided AoE attacks, and I was single targeting Vader until I can delete Dooku with Big's attack. Once that's good, then I can go back to the AoEs just like now and take things out. If you notice, Boba Fett there just used his execute, his missile strike, on my Lando, and it did a lot of damage. If he had more buffs and debuffs on him, it would have killed him. But I was able to heal back up and finish focusing who I need to focus, take him out, and call it a day. So as you can see, I'm kind of sustaining. Farm Boy Luke, he's starting to kind of wear off now, so I'm going to kind of use him as much as I can until I need to substitute somebody else in for him. And it'll be one of my tanks, probably a lesser tank. I'll want to put in on him, then use my stronger tanks as the people I'm facing get stronger. So this is a more interesting team. You have Geonosian Soldier, which is an attacker. He does a good bit of damage. But you also have Lando, which does a lot of area damage. So I opted to take out the area damage first because I don't have a way to really deal with that. Then I want to focus on the higher damaging single target people, like the Geonosian Soldier there. The other person we have to worry about is Qui-Gon Jinn. He does a handful of things, but he's not that bad. I can still take him out. I'm really worried about my Wedge here. He's very low in health. He could have died, but he did not. I used that AoE to get the crits and to kill people and get health back, which is great. And now I'm kind of in a position now where I'm back up to par. I can sustain and continue, as you saw right there. That's the whole point of using the Wedge lead with this particular Rebel squad. If you use somebody else, you wouldn't have that sustain. That right there was another one of the harder nodes that you'll run into in Galactic War. And you saw I cleared it. I've still been using the same team all the way through. Now this last block of 3, I consider if I get the first 2 complete and not the last one, I consider that a good day, because that last node can be a real doozy sometimes. So now I'm starting to think about being more strategic and using the right characters. I want to put Leia under stealth so she's not focused. I have a Dooku there under that Nihilist lead. I took him out with Big's attack. That means I don't have to worry about him countering on AoEs and stuff. Most people would try to worry about that Nihilist because his Annihilate his one-shot. I'm not too worried about that because it takes him a couple turns. So I want to focus somebody else. You saw my farm boy Luke there died. I want to worry about Boba Fett, because with Boba Fett, this team has enough damage to get me down low in health, and if he stays alive, he can keep reviving himself as I kill him. Now if you notice there, I just lost Biggs. I want to keep Biggs and Wedge and Lando. Those are the three most important characters I have. Leia is the next one because they do stuff. So what I did is I backed out. You can back out of a battle anytime in Galactic War, and it's not going to negatively impact you. So I went back in, and I'm going to kind of change up the way I'm doing things a little bit to avoid that kill from Savage over there. So I was deciding whether I wanted to attack him or Darth Maul. I chose for Darth Maul because he has an AoE daze. That could be an issue. So I killed Maul first so it wouldn't affect me that much. And I switched my focus over there to Savage to see if I can whittle him down first before he gets his bigger attacks off. And I was able to do that, got a little bit of lucky, and it was handled. Now I can switch back over and focus on Boba Fett like I was before, because again, I can ignore Nihilus. The battle's not going to last long enough to where Nihilus causes an issue. This team has no way to guarantee that Nihilus gets his cooldown reduced by 5 for having 5 enemies debuffed and using his Drain Life. A lot of people use Nihilus incorrectly like that. Nihilus pairs wonderfully with Tarkin. I have another video about taking out the Phoenix Squad if you have Nihilus and Tarkin at lower levels. It's great. But as you see here, I lost Farm Boy Luke, but my entire team is sustained. I moved through that node. Now I'm going on to the next one. Now, this node, this team, it's not really amazing. I took out Stormtrooper Han because he's just too powerful for this particular stage, and I put in Old Ben. Old Ben will do the job great, and the great thing about this is that I can sacrifice Old Ben and use his ability. I believe it's a unique that he has to survive or give my team great stuff, and it's if you strike me down, and it's whenever another Jedi or Rebel ally takes damage. Old Ben gains turn meter, which is in full Rebel squad, so that's good. The first time Old Ben is defeated, all allies gain offense up, speed up for 2 turns, and recover 20% health and protection. So, taunting before the ability block is going to guarantee everyone's going to focus on Old Ben. Okay, so I can worry about picking out the team with the Emperor Palpatine because he does passive damage. And then taunt, have them focus him, go down. Now I got health and protections back, speed, and speed refills my turn meter. Turn meter being refilled means I keep going faster and faster, attacking the enemy, wiping them out. So, that node 11 is done. I'm going on to node 12, which is going to be the last node. I could have used my Rebel squad on this node, but if you see, those are gear 10 characters, maybe 11, gear 10 to 11 characters there. And one thing you want to do and keep in mind is a backup team to kind of soften the blow on the some more difficult nodes, kind of throwing things in as cannon fodder. That way certain abilities and stuff are used, they're on cooldown, and when you bring your main team in, they don't have a lot of struggle, or as much of a struggle going through. And that's what I used my Empire team here for. However, with my lower geared Empire team, I was able to handle this higher gear team. Now you notice I'm running an Emperor Palpatine which is really great, with the Vader, with the who has the Empire and Sith tags, and also the Nihilus Empire and Sith tags. And my 2 guys in the back are both Empire tags. It's Tarkin and TIE Fighter pilot. No one here is gear 9. I think I have Emperor Palpatine at a gear 8, same with the Nihilus. Vader's either gear 7 or 8. Tarkin's gear 8. TIE Fighter pilot's like gear 7. So they're 2-3 gear levels behind this particular team that's lacking synergy. Tarkin's debuff that goes out is really wonderful for reducing damage on the incoming team. So is Vader's debuffs going out onto the enemy team. It's an AoE debuff. That way when Nihilus uses Drain Life, he's able to get his Annihilate cooldown reduced by 5, and that thing brought up. So I can sort of decide who I want to pick off. I'm surprised this team didn't do, I mean, I guess whoever designed this team just picked characters they like. They didn't really focus on building a synergistic team. If the team was more synergistic in nature and worked and played off of each other's strengths and weaknesses, I would have had a harder time. I should have been attacking the Geonosis soldier here, but I figured let's just try to maximize my damage per second and get rid of Chewie, or Yeah, Chewie. He's Chewie. Let's just face it, he's Chewie. And then use my Annihilate on the highest health person, and then work on the healer after that, because there would be nobody for the healer to heal if I kill one, Annihilate another, and then it's just left by itself. So that is how I use a low gear team to wipe out a higher gear team, and use the old school rebels to come through Galactic War. It is a interesting process, and you kind of have to build up to it. Some people will use the Phoenix squad early on, which is a very good squad. Later on, once I get my Phoenix account up and running, I'll put some videos on doing Galactic War with them up. But when you're starting the game, you have to look at your longevity into the game and how much you're really going to be farming, and what you're going to farm, because like there's a lot of characters and a lot of different teams, but you can't get them all, especially if you're free to play. So you kind of have to pick and choose. My first time around, I've done these old school rebels. They've been treating me well. They also helped me for the CLS event. That's Commander Luke Skywalker, if you're not familiar. And that's another thing that videos, and you can research and happen later on. It's not really pertinent to this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned something.